I'm gonna need your guys' help. We need to fix the Void Stones. We need to make them better in update 20. And I'm kind of drawing a blank. I'm not drawing a blank, but every idea that I've had in my head comes out bad in some way. One trouble we have with Void Stones and making them be like a Vault Gear item that has like stats and stuff. One problem is that it's a research. So not everyone has access to them. And the problem with that is we can't really gate Vault power behind researches. We can, but we shouldn't because we haven't done that in any other regard and it would be a bit weird. So that's one limitation. What if Void Stones are not gated behind a research? What if they're cheap to make and you'd have to maintain them with charges? Like someone said, you have to use like repair cores because that's the cost of them. But you have them from the very beginning. That would fix a lot of the early game loot mess. And then the research is the Void Crucible. Hear me out, this sounds weird, right? But the research would be the ability to modify what gets voided and what doesn't get voided. Because if we do it that way, now all of a sudden we are free, we have freed up our minds, we've freed up our game design urges to make Void Stones have some Vault Gear modifiers. We can make unique Void Stones, we can make Void Stones that matter, that you're proud of. It's almost like a little trinket piece of your gear set. I think it would be interesting to make the Void Stone, like interesting at least to start the thought process there. Like what if we turn it around? What if the research is the ability to filter out what should be kept and what shouldn't be kept? Then, of course, it should be optional to have the Void Stone. Maybe with that, we can do what the community wants us to do. Maybe then, if we have a system like that, we could have the Void Stone activatable or deactivatable inside a vault. I know you guys want that feature. So if you want to go and loot a room all of a sudden and you want to keep all the blocks, which is super fun to do for a build or whatever, you could just deactivate it mid-vault. Because then lore-wise it becomes a different angle as well. Lore-wise, it becomes an angle about whether or not you're allowing the blocks that are generated in the vault. Like it becomes like, okay, if I want to collect all of these cool blocks in the vaults, I have to deactivate my Void Stone, my core of my player or whatever. Not great with lore to describe it, but yeah. Oh, Void Jewel. Oh, I see what you're saying. So you have to add a Void Jewel to your tools. So, okay, so you're saying like redo it entirely, skip the entire idea with a Void Stone and move it to a jewel. So then how would that look though? That sounds pretty good on paper. Let's think about how that would look. Every single hammer you make would have the Void Jewel, and if you don't know about it, you're screwing yourself over and you're ruining your tools. Is there any scenario where you wouldn't have a Void Jewel on your hammer? Would you have a specific hammer for mining blocks? Would you bring that with you? It's not a bad idea. It's a completely different idea though. But then people are going to say, like, I accidentally put it on my tool, I want to disable it. Like, we're going to get that whole discussion then, like pulverizing. It is very interesting. Like, I'm not saying this is a bad idea. I'm just thinking about, like, the loopholes. Then don't put it accidentally on it. But the amount of people that put the stuff on accidentally, like they put pulverizing on and want to disable it, or smelting and want to disable it. And then those same people are coming and saying, like, we need to have a system where we remove jewels. And I mean, that's a discussion to be had, maybe. I burned my hand on my stove. Let's ban the stoves. I know that it's always easy to blame the user, and it's a very, like, it's not wrong. Like, yeah, at what point, and I'm going to be a bit harsh here, right? At what point do we consider stupidity versus playability, right? It's what it boils down to, if I'm completely honest. But at the same time, if stupidity leads to people not liking the game too often, then it may be worth rethinking the core game design. And with jewels, I'm just saying, based on my knowledge, based on what I've seen, people are gonna make this mistake, and we never want to have a situation where people feel bad. Or, well, we want to have as few of those situations as possible. Is what I'm saying. I do like the Void Jewel though. I like the Void Jewel. I'm not anti it. I think it's a pretty clean solution. I'm not gonna lie. It's kind of cleaner than having a bauble. It is. What if you put it on magnets and include the buffs? Wouldn't that then also help magnets feel better? But the Crucible is what adds it onto the magnet. Then you just toggle the magnet on and off if you don't want to void. Oh, is it a magnet thing? But then it can't be a jewel though. So would it be a stat on the magnet? Would that be an implicit? Would that always be there? What range would it have? And what if I want to magnet things that I want to collect to my inventory? Magnet does make sense because it's a pickup thing. Agreed. Tools does make sense because it's breaking thing. Yeah, so I just feel like this. If we make it a modifier on magnets, it's going to be like this weird thing where it doesn't have a range. Like, are you just going to sit there and wild focus until you get it on every single magnet? And then when you don't have it, it's annoying? Or is it an implicit that always exists? You know, I think magnet is not as flexible as a jewel. A jewel is more flexible. Okay, let me break down the magnet. I like it lore-wise. I think implementation is not going to be as clean as you guys think. Because a gear modifier like that would be, you know, something that you'd always want. Let's think about the jewel thing. You're gonna build your tool and you're gonna forget to add the void jewel. Would there be any randomness in the jewel? No. But that's not to say it's bad, because we already have other things that have no randomness. So a jewel I like. I was more thinking that the crucible would control whether or not the magnet would void items. Like you put in the crucible and it modifies the magnet, adding, voiding, and stat. Then the crucible, you keep the whitelist for the blocks you want. I see. So rather than it being a vault modifier, it would be a new thing where you take the magnet and configure your magnet here. Then it becomes more like a backpack thing, right? Where you have to save like a filter. It's interesting. That would definitely be a Vault Hunter 2 thing. Oh, Vault Hunter 4 thing, sorry. I think the jewel, am I wrong? The jewel idea is really clean. So you can opt to put the jewel on your tool. It is going to be annoying because you're going to want 2 hammers. You're going to want a hammer for collecting stuff inside of... Is that a bad thing though? Okay, so the limitation there is that we can't charge the player for uses. But it's kind of clean though. And it would be a craftable one. So you would craft it in the... Here, it would be like a size 5 affinity jewel. Here's how we would do it. So if you unlock the crucible, this thing here, junk management, you'd be allowed to whitelist or whatever we're doing here. Yeah, I'm whitelisting what I want to keep. What if the void jewel costs 0 eyes? Then it doesn't feel special? No, that's true. Easy with magnet using the same key of states, off, on, or on plus void. Yeah, then it wouldn't be... Okay, that's an interesting idea. Tetragon Life has an interesting idea. Skip the idea of it being a modifier. Say that it's just a feature of the magnet. And then this keybind, the magnets mode, you switch it to on, void, off. So basically, it's just a free thing given to everyone at any time, with full choices. But then Skyvault building would suck. Would it though? So the states of the magnet would be here. Let me put it down on a sign because I think I explained it badly. This is super interesting discussion, by the way. I hope you guys are enjoying this because I love this. So state of magnet keybind would be on, off, void. So it'd be like a technical implementation rather than a lore implementation. So right now you can do off and on with this keybind here. Let me see what it's called. Magnet on, off, toggle. We would change this to have a third option, which is void. So it shouldn't affect Skyvaults at all. It shouldn't affect collecting stuff at all. Well, fine, but what does it want to void? Because you may want to keep some items like wood in vault, but you wouldn't. You want to void dirt. Yeah, but that's where the crucible comes in. Right now it's like this. A void stone will respect this. We would remove the void stone, and if you want to filter what it voids, you need to unlock the void crucible. And now you can like control it. So if I don't want to lose out on deep slate, I put deep slate here. Let's ask ourselves the question like this. What do we want to do? Do we want to ease the player and inventory management when it comes to junk blocks? Do we want the player to be able to, without progression, have a mode where the magnet can void things for the player? If we do, the keybind is super clean. Is the progression then based on, okay, I want to decide what I void, not just every generated block, but I want to decide to not void honey blocks and not void block of amethyst. Well, then we add crucible to the top of that. No, I like the idea of the crucible unlocking the keybind. Also, the crucible would unlock the keybind. So now we're back to the part. Okay, let me turn the question around then. This is how my brain goes. I'm not completely happy with the fact that every time I play Vault Hunters, every time I do a new playthrough, I'm going to unlock this pretty early. There's going to be no change for me with how it's currently working, because being able to void items when I use a hammer is super valuable to me. And I think it's super valuable to most players. So I don't like that the game, quote unquote, forces me to unlock it because it feels so bog standard. And why is that? Why does it feel like that? Well, because inventory management is a pain, because storing all of the items that you break with a hammer is a pain. It's specifically to do with the hammer. It doesn't really affect you early game when you don't have a hammer. It doesn't really affect you before you start ripping through the vaults. Is it good that the player is able to rip through the vaults? Are hammers too powerful? I don't think so. Hammers are really fun. They're exciting to play around with. It's fun to rip through vaults. Do you feel that way about backpacks? I do. I hate that in every playthrough I have to go down the backpack line. I hate it. I do hate it. I've talked about it before. In Vault Hunters 4, I want to find a different solution for storing the loot that you get in vaults. I hate the backpack thing. Danks wasn't better, guys. It was the same thing with Danks. Right, so let's finish up the discussion. I think the cleanest suggestion today is to get rid of void stones, make a toggleable option for voiding. If you're watching this on YouTube, you gotta let me know what you think. And the Dylan chat, the chatter seems to be excited about a toggle ball. There are some concerns though, which I see. We would keep the Crucible, and the Crucible would control what you can void. So it would allow you to then modify that void, kind of like it does now. I like it. I think it's clean. We'd get rid of this slot here. Get rid of the Void Stone.